Thank you for joining us today. It is officially Thrive Thursday. I'm Laura Brandao, the president of AFR, and today we have 3 guests who are going to share with us how they have adapted to our new world and are now thriving. Let's meet our guests. From Maryland, we have Rhonda Slade. She is the Chief Excellence Officer of RL Slade Consulting. From West Virginia, we have Michele Palante Muth. She is the Director of Recreation at Marshall University. And from Nashville, Tennessee, we have Elizabeth Power. She is the founder of the Trauma Informed Academy. Okay, Rhonda, the last few months have certainly brought a lot of change and adaptation. None of us are the same as where we started at the beginning of this year. We've learned a lot from this change. And what I'd like to know is, what have you started saying yes to, and how has this helped you to thrive?
Well, thank you, Laura. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this wonderful mission of yours. Yes, this has been a very tumultuous time. And the thing that I said yes to was my own greatness. And I know that's kind of different, but I have been one, and I'm known to be one to encourage others and build up others. And I even wrote a book that's titled Your Greatness Matters. But the crazy part is, I kind of didn't believe that my own greatness mattered, right? So in the course of this pandemic and the time and quarantine, and of course I had some low moments through that at the very beginning, but then I started to realize that I'm here for a purpose. I have a purpose, and that greatness is involved in that. I've noticed that we have a theme here. I'm also an educator, and it seems like everyone else is also educators. And so that kind of, right, it kind of transitioned from that and focusing on building up myself and my students and then my business, and it just grew from there. And so that's what I really said yes to. And things have happened. One of my friends called it pandemic promotions, and that I went from being a teacher to an administrator at my school. And I have a business, I am a independent Mary Kay consultant, and my business is growing as we've done a quick pivot to virtual, and my family is thriving. So it's just been an amazing few months, and just to see that when I opened up to my own greatness, how things could change.
Okay, well, we have to go backwards, because boy, did you just throw something out there, okay? You can't, Rhonda, whoa, hang on there.
Exactly.
That's how you know this is live, right? That's how you know it's live. All right, so Rhonda, but that's the thing about 2020. Literally anything could happen to us at this moment, and we'll just deal with it. It doesn't matter. All right. So Rhonda, you threw out the word greatness. Now that is a big word, okay? So 2 things. One, I want to understand, what did you go through in the process of yourself to realize that, one, you were making everyone feel their greatness, but you actually weren't using your own or allowing yourself to feel this? So what was it that allowed you to finally dig into yourself and pull it out? And then from there, why do you think that it took the pandemic to cause that ripple to thrive?
So I'll start with the last question first, and then that'll take me back to the first one. So it took the pandemic to make me sit still, because I've always been a busy bee. I'm always moving, doing a zillion things at the same time, multitasking all the time. My daughter says I'm not that great at it, but I do a lot of different things. And so it took that time of literally being still, really focusing on what matters, which is my faith, my family, my health. And then really taking, also my children are now transitioned. I've been a single mom for 20 plus years, but my children are now all adults, right? So it's like I've lived for them, and now it's, what do I want, right? What is my life? And so it really took that time of being still. And so in the course of this the pandemic, and having to shift to becoming a virtual teacher, having to
Right.
shift to becoming a virtual business owner, it really made me dig deep down inside of myself and see where my gifts are, and which is interesting because in my definition of greatness, the G stands for gifts, and really helping others determine their own gift. I really hadn't thought about mine. And so that was really that this during this time frame was what I have done, and it's really working for me. It's really working for me.
Wow. I love that. So it was finally slowing down, taking a moment to stop. And don't you wonder if we were all so busy just trying to fill time? Like almost like we thought that being busy was like a badge of honor, right? Right?
Oh, yeah,
it was
definitely.
like a badge of honor. We're so busy. But were we really making progress? Were we really progressing? Right? It's funny how we stopped and we progressed more.
Exactly.
Right?
That is so true. So true.
Oh, I love it. And I can't wait till we get to the superpower question, because I think I'm already feeling what superpower is. So we're going to come back to that.
Okay.
All right. Well, that is awesome. And thank you for sharing that. That's a wonderful story. All right, Michele, what did you say yes to that now is causing you to thrive during this time?
So I'm kind of jealous, Rhonda, because when this all hit, I did not have time to sit still. I have 2 kids.
Oh, yeah.
My oldest is in high school. She's a sophomore, and my youngest is in 6th grade. So he's in middle school. And all of a sudden, we're home, right? And everybody's got homework to do. And I brought my office home with me and actually became more busy and got crazy. I tell people that I never worked so hard in my entire life as I did during the time we were home. For me, it was a lot of it was keeping my frustrations in check and really sort of like giving myself the space to forgive what I couldn't control.
Right.
So to just be like, all right, I'm going to handle the situation because there's nothing I can do about it except try to make it better in any way that I can, instead of fighting it and trying to be in control all the time. I kind of had to let go and know that this is in control and I have to adapt to it. So that was my main thing. Just being a more patient manager with my staff. I have 11 full-time staff that report to me and 120 student staff.
Wow.
So 120 students not being able to go to work, that was stressing me out. They rely on their pay. And then just being patient with my staff and just knowing that they were trying their best. They're also at home with their families and doing what they can to keep our building running and keep the finances there. So it was a stressful time, but I am my harshest critic. I didn't give myself a lot of slack. And when I finally started to be like, okay, Michele, there's nothing you can do to change the situation. So just adapt to it. That was what I learned.
Isn't that just so interesting that all we want to do, especially as women, I'm sorry, the women especially want to do this. All we want to do is control and make everything better for everyone, right? We all want to put the Band-Aid on and kiss a boo-boo and make it all better. And we want to fix everything and we want to make everything magical for everyone else. But what you learned is that it was beyond your control. Yeah. You could only take care of the things that you could control, such as the staff members, the team members going through the same thing that you were. All of a sudden, you were homeschooling. All of a sudden, you were responsible for, I don't know how to do this 6th grade math. You know, I'm going to try. I'll figure this out. I mean, I couldn't figure out the 6th grade math.
Because the 6th grade math is killing me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I don't think any of us can do the 6th grade math.
Well,
So,
shoot, I couldn't do the 4th.
What was that?
I couldn't do the 4th grade math.
I agree.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's where all of a sudden we had to come up and say, I can only control what I can. The rest I have to let go and I have to give myself some grace.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson that beyond all of this, I think we're going to realize we can't control everything and we can't kiss every boo-boo out there and make it better. And we have to just realize that, you know, we can only do so much.
And all you can do is have empathy, right? You can't kiss the boo-boos and make them better, but you can understand what people are going through.
Correct.
Through all that, I definitely became more empathetic. When I had students calling me saying, I can't buy groceries.
Oh.
I can't buy groceries. Like, I'm really depressed. I'm at home. I can't go home to my parents. I'm stuck in my apartment by myself.
Oh.
I mean, that was really hard. So just being there and being available while trying to get all the financial stuff that my bosses were requiring from me and being empathetic and that's never been my strong suit. I'm one of those people who are like, oh yeah, you fell down, get back up, get to it. You can ask my kids. They're like, mom is tough. And I had to learn how to have a little more empathy. That was hard for me.
But that's a valuable skill that you now understand the importance of it, because I think that's another thing that I think as an entire world we learned. This is the only time in our lifetimes that the whole world was experiencing the same thing, right? Yeah. It's like, you know, before that, it was like certain sections of the country or certain areas were experiencing trauma, right? We're going to get to Elizabeth and trauma. But in this situation, we all experienced it. We all understood going through this, like you said, the depression or the frustration we all went through those emotions. Everyone went through those emotions. But the biggest piece of it is, what did we learn from it? And what will we take with us as we have adapted and grown into our new greatness? Right, Rhonda? That's our new greatness.
Yes.
That's right. Okay, Elizabeth, let's hear it.
I've been chomping at the bit. I tell you, the thing is, when I hear you talking about students who can't buy groceries, I think we forget two things about this time. One is that for some of us, we may have been able to make great strides and do great things with it, but there are people who may not, I don't call it food insecurity all you want to. It's going hungry.
Yeah.
It's not being hungry, it's going hungry.
Yep.
It's not having enough food to eat. It's the people whose parents or whose spouses or partners are emotionally and physically abusive to them.
Yeah.
Or where, 25% of the country doesn't have the internet. Okay, so I'm keenly aware of all these things, but let me tell you about what I chose, because it's all about me. All right?
Today it is, Elizabeth.
It has been such a time of growth and potential busting for me. The position I chose at the very beginning, because my $1 million business went to zero in 24 hours.
Oof.
I spent 43 weeks a year on the road teaching. Now I can't travel anymore. So it's like, okay, barns burned. Now I can see the stars.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an old Zen koan, but it's fabulous for times like this, because, okay, clearly every structure I know that's familiar is just about gone. So what am I going to do now? So it's like, oh, okay, well, let's kick this up a notch. You've been complaining about traveling all that time. So I really went back to a foundational piece of work. I have a book of the same name. If change is all there is, choice is all you've got. And there's so many funny sayings about that where I come from. Like, you can't take cream out of coffee. And that's a story about change. The hen's involved, but the hog's committed. While it's an old breakfast story, it's a story about change. So I began to find all of these idiomatic things that I've been using over the years, which I come from Appalachia, the West by God, Virginia, let's just be correct here. That we picture talk. And so all those picture talking things that I used kept going through my mind, and I kept coming back to that koan, barns burned, now I can see the stars. So I've rebranded, we've redone the website, we've taken the online academy, and I have a book that will be coming out at the end of the year from the Trauma Informed Academy on the work I do, which is non-pathologizing. I just want to say to you, Michele, the development of empathy means that you've jacked your emotional intelligence up a whole lot across this time, which means that you'll be more successful at work. And that's a cool thing. And that by focusing on self-awareness, Rhonda, you too have jacked up your emotional intelligence. But what you've also done for both of you, you've actually paid serious attention in a non-pathologizing, fairly easy way because of the thumb screws of the pandemic. You've actually been responding to any traumatic events from either this life, whether they are medical or natural disasters or victimization by crime or the usual suspects of abuse and neglect. But you've also hit generational trauma. You've begun to interrupt it for your generations and the generations to come by
Look at
those simple
that.
things.
Yes, I love that.
And that's a lot. Hats off. So that's the kind of stuff I've been saying yes to. I have completely turned my business around. We're doing live streams. We're doing, I just created a webinar that I delivered a few weeks ago on resilience and self-care, which pairs an established model of resilience building with the actions of self-care. So you amplify your self-care that way. I've done a couple of PDs on trauma responsive education. I've just been and picking up clients in conferences, going back to my clients where I had conferences booked, just totally going, oh, please, I hope this works. Saying, hey, that conference you just canceled, when you decide, not if, but when you decide to have it on Zoom, let me know, because that's one of the platforms I'm really good at.
Right.
Yep.
And I managed to save all of them in the long run. So just saying yes to, there are now no boundaries. The only boundary is what I'm willing to decide, because it's really decisions that make results,
Mm-hmm.
and how much I'm willing to keep focusing on the choices this presents.
Right.
Over and over and over again.
It's powerful. It's powerful. Do you see what you ladies are doing? Do you see the change and the metamorphosis that is happening?
Oh,
And you're
yes.
right. I mean, I know Elizabeth is the expert here, but it usually that change happens when something traumatic happens, right? There's usually a catalyst. And obviously this is the catalyst.
Let me kind of give you where you're coming from, probably without knowing it. We think about something being traumatic, but if we really look at the definition, all the people who own the power to label are talking about, it's any event so overwhelming that we can't make sense of it. We can't integrate the feelings we have about it. We can't stay in the present sometimes. That's anything.
Yeah.
And we have stuck it in this box of being all the things that we thought about in the 60s and 70s before we honestly knew better. The symptoms don't care about the diagnosis. They don't care about the cause. That's the impairments that we have in learning how to choose and learning how to manage our feelings and learning what feelings are. Where I come from, you feel good, you feel bad. That's as far as it gets. There's a whole Baskin-Robbins selection set for anger, like 54 to 100 different synonyms.
Wow.
It's glorious when you get into it, but if you don't know it, you can't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's just cool stuff when you really begin to look at, the impact of change. Change is really the root. Change, when change is traumatic, then we have to wrestle with how do we move beyond that. And we really look at how are we going to get happier, not happy, but happier.
Mm-hmm.
Because that allows us to step into greatness. That allows us to develop empathy. That allows us to be able to live in an open universe instead of a closed one. And that's what's been so cool about it for me. Sorry, I get excited.
Look at that, ladies.
I love it.
All right. So we've learned that part of it. And now I get my most favorite part. You guys know this from when we did our pre-call. I discovered something while writing my book that's coming out next month, Say Yes Every Day, that we all have some type of unique superpower. But when I first threw that question out, the very first week back in September, I noticed that people were very, very uncomfortable with answering that, because as a society, we're almost sort of, there's nothing special about you. You're just another individual human, just like everyone else. I personally do not believe that. I believe that all of us have some unique gift, and especially when we utilize it and combine it with others, greatness and beauty emerges. So I would love to hear from all of you what your superpower is that you share with the world. Rhonda.
So you gave us the assignment of talking to the people closest to us. So I asked my children, my adult children, my 26-year-old daughter, my 22-year-old son, and my 21-year-old youngest son. And my daughter immediately said, making the impossible happen.
Ooh.
And then my 21-year-old said optimism. And my 22-year-old said motivating others.
There you go.
So all of that wrapped up. And then I asked my best friends and they said extending grace to people. So
nice. So my first question I want to ask, and all of that is wonderful, and kudos for you for sharing that with the world. My biggest question is, how did it make you feel hearing that from your children?
I'm weeping Wanda. I cry at commercials. I cry, at the slightest little thing. And so I was just like, oh, especially, I mean, from my daughter, yeah, she says stuff like that all the time. But my sons, they're kind of,
yep.
They're like,
they're guys.
Right, exactly. So to hear that from my sons, it was, I mean, of course, I love all three of them equally, and I tell them that all the time. But to hear that, it really was like, oh wow, that's just really great. Well, thank you.
So now the biggest thing, and I know you're doing this with your company and your book. Your biggest thing is make sure you share that in every opportunity, and I'm sure you already do. But just keep it in your mind to share it with everyone. And thank you for bringing that to us.
Thank you.
All right, Michele, let's hear.
So this was a hard one.
Uh-huh.
And I asked some people and they were just like, I don't know. Like it was hard. I did find a coworker did say something, but so I'm originally from New Jersey, right? And we're not very known for being especially like really sweet people. Then I moved to Norway when I was 12. So I grew up in Europe, and Norwegians are very stiff and sort of like not very friendly. And then,
she went from New Jersey to Norway. Yeah. You're in a tough crowd there, Michele.
Right. So I just have this like, and then I moved to West Virginia and everybody was so sweet and nice. And I've gotten used to it, and I probably it's rubbed off after I've been here 20 years. So it's rubbed off. But I'm never the person that anybody would describe as sweet and nice. Ever. The things that your family said about you, Rhonda, they would never. But they did say that I am really good at multitasking. I check items off my list. If you ask me to help you with something or do something that's like task oriented, I can get it done, and you can trust I'm going to get it done immediately. Like, you don't even have to ask me to do it. If you just mention that you need to figure something out, I'm like on the computer and I'm like, here.
So you're the organizer, the planner. You're the person that can take everyone's chaos and kind of whip it into something where it comes together and it turns out magical.
Yes.
So that is truly a superpower.
Thank you. It was hard.
Love that. Look at that. That is awesome. But do you realize how powerful that is? Like, that is truly a gift. Yeah. That is a gift.
Now I gotta own it.
Yes. Well, now we expect you to just make everything organized and coordinated and awesome. I love that. All right. Elizabeth literally has power in her name. So let's just hear, what is your superpower?
I don't know if I should code switch to West Virginia ease, because it's how some of these came to me. I called my friends back home, which is what you're seeing. And the responses were hilarious, but they are, well, let's just put it like this. 2 people said that I could make chicken salad out of chicken manure.
I got the picture, Elizabeth, right? Picture.
And it's like, you just can't dress that one up a whole lot. But it's a good example of, I called 2 friends of mine in Middle Tennessee and I said, what's my superpower? Independently. And y'all, this is a hard one. And they said, miracle worker.
Oh,
wow.
What do you do with that?
Wow.
It kind of is the same thing about the chicken salad, though.
That's
it really
true. That
means
is a miracle.
the same thing.
That is a miracle.
It is.
It's a miracle.
So I thought maybe I'd better come up to some of the people and, my colleagues at Vanderbilt, or some of my other friends who are kind of, gusty, which I could pull it off. But today is today. You are not getting gusty. You're getting behind the curtain.
Okay.
And I said, what's my superpower? Superpower. And one of them said, I have to think about that. She was a Canadian, good, reasonable woman. And her husband said, I have to think about that. And he's Hungarian, which is not reasonable. And they called me back and they said, we agree. Your superpower is that you can help people reframe anything and heal in the process.
Wow.
Ooh.
And
I think
thought,
that's
okay.
miracle worker again.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
That is. You have a consensus here.
Yeah.
I do.
I mean, they all said the same thing, Elizabeth.
The
Every one of them in a
demographics,
different way.
You know.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm going to tell you, 2 weeks ago, somebody told me they're a hope dealer. Last week, they were a positive pusher. So now we have a miracle worker here.
Right?
What's next?
You have to tune in so that we can see. I don't know, but I really am. I thought about it today, about I am having the gift of meeting such wonderful people that I never would have had. I said this to you guys the other day. Never in my life would have I had the opportunity for our paths to cross. But yet I get to hear your wonderful stories and your perspectives, and you get to share it with the world. And most importantly is I want you to continue to recognize your gift and continue to share it, because they really are gifts. Absolutely. All right, ladies, now I get to hear who's going to be joining me on December 4th for our episode. So Rhonda, who do we have?
You have my amazing 26-year-old daughter, Amber. Amber
very nice.
is a force to be reckoned with. Her name means golden jewel and fierce, and she has been a golden jewel and fierce her entire life. But she's currently a graduate student at American University, but she also is a cybersecurity consultant, and she just purchased her first home at 25 in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
And so she's a blogger, she has a YouTube channel, blogger about helping millennials manage their finances and
very good.
Do those types of things. So
you know how important that is to me, with me being in the mortgage industry. So that is kudos on that one. I can't wait to hear all about that. Oh, that's exciting. Can't wait to meet her. Lovely. Michele, who do we have?
I nominated my friend Chris Lane, who started off his career in fitness at the Marshall Recreation Center and left us a few years ago to start his own business. And he was able to do so during the pandemic.
Wow.
A fitness studio where he does personal training. It's called Boombox. It's in Southern Ohio. So we're getting over the river to Ohio. And he is pretty incredible. He's a giant Hulk of a man.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. We're talking face tattoos, and he'll be like this. But he trains all kinds of basketball players who have gone on to the NBA. Wow. He's got tons of followers on Instagram. He's a great guy, and I'm very proud of him. He just opened his business.
That is quite an accomplishment, especially that business during COVID. So can't wait to hear all about that. That's awesome. Yep. All right, Elizabeth, who do I have the pleasure?
You have an A and a B, because I haven't gotten a confirmation from one.
Okay, yeah, so go ahead, give me, and then once you get confirmation, you can send me the info.
All right. Elle Pearson is a brilliant businesswoman and colleague of mine who's actually should be on the Alif TED Talk Alif on the 28th.
Oh, wow.
And I'm nominating her because of the thing that she is the most incredible strategist and thinker I know of in so many ways, and is going through, like we are, her own metamorphosis.
Oh, wow.
Healthcare consulting is where she is now.
Wow. And look at that during this time. Wow. Gifted. Awesome.
And your alternative is Julie Liskey, who was the founder of the Brown Center for Autism here in Nashville. Now she's no longer that. She's given the material she created there over to the Davidson County Autism Society. But you need to look up her son, Ben Liskey, Benliske, because he's not supposed to be where he is. And she created a program that has been incredibly successful and is documented and supported by a lot of people, which only replicates what she helped her own son do in terms of
Oh.
recovering or moving beyond the diff ability that he has.
Oh, diffability.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, you know, it doesn't diss anything unless you
Right.
come from a different perspective.
Right.
And if we live long enough, we'll all be diff-abilitied.
Yes, that is very true. Absolutely. Well, ladies, this was truly enlightening. Thank you so much for joining. And we wish you all the best in your families and your businesses. Be well, be safe. Always.
Great.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
guys.
Too long.